Welcome to Brink, a podcast about startups figuring things out. Today, I'm joined by Dan. How you doing, Dan?
Hey, pretty good.
Good.
Good to talk to you, Bryce.
Yeah. So, Dan, you're with Payload CMS. What
Yes.
is Payload?
Yeah, so we use Payload, and it's a developer tool that we built specifically for developers to manage all the content management that they need to do. But we borderline on application framework. So we're doing a lot more than just pure content. You can build full apps with Payload.
Okay, that's awesome. Who typically is using Payload today?
We are, we don't silo to like one kind of industry. So we're a really broad tool. And Payload comes with like a very minimalistic standpoint from just a simple blog standpoint, if that's what you want to do. But then you can extend it in so many ways that you're not really limited to any specific thing that you want to do.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So I imagine is it pretty simple to get started? So if you wanted to just do the blog, is it like are you getting up and running in a couple minutes or?
Absolutely, yeah. And especially because we have, a lot of boilerplates, a lot of templates that you can jump right into. If you're a Next person, you can do that, or Nuxt or something else. You can hit a template, get your front end, and then Payload is all for the back end and that admin UI that you get to manage the content that you're creating.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So the person who's going to sign up and first discover Payload, who is that? Who's seeking out Payload today?
Yeah. Well, we definitely target that developer crowd. So if you're a team that has at least one developer, you're going to be right at home with Payload.
Okay.
If you're just a marketing or a business team that doesn't necessarily have the development resources, I would recommend maybe a no-code or a low-code tool. But we are very much focused on that developer experience, giving a dev tool that can really be robust and give you everything you need.
Gotcha. Okay. Very cool. And how has this been adopted to date? How long you've been around for? How many people are using this?
Yeah.
Best you can tell.
Well, we started developing in sort of a silo in our own need and scratching our own itch. And we spent about 3 years in development, just like refactoring, making sure everything is totally right for an agency perspective, a freelance perspective, or an enterprise perspective. So we spent a lot of time just getting that right. And then we launched, and we had sort of a slow journey because there's so many different dev tools out there. You're on the internet, that's just very big, and trying to make your little voice heard. And I feel like we had a product market fit in an early version, but we didn't have much traction yet. The people that found us just absolutely loved it. Mm-hmm. And now I feel like that traction is really starting to hit. So we've got roughly about 8,000 projects in production from our telemetry today. We just crossed 10,000 stars on GitHub, which we're thrilled about. And a year ago, we were, a division of 10 by that. So we were, less than 1,000 stars just 12 months ago.
So what's changed in your world going from a tenth of that a year ago to now? What's just like operationally, what's different for you?
Yeah, well, we are operationally, the community is still number one. We're still very focused on just driving the word, getting the good word that like Payload is the way to build stuff. And so we're still focused on the same goals, but the scope has changed. The numbers are bigger, but it's really, we're still helping individuals on our community help. We have a Discord, we have, GitHub discussions, and we're out on there every day. Our team is bigger. There are more users on it. We are seeing more users help each other, which is amazing to see. But you've always got to nudge people to the right things that you know best if you built it. And that's true for our enterprise customers too. Like you can get a lot of support just on the community, but we're driving customers that want that extra care to enterprise agreements, and we can help them out there. And our team has grown. We're up to 10 people now.
Nice.
Yeah, it was just 3 original founders. And then about 6 months ago, we onboarded much more, and we've just been crushing it.
That's a big change. What do you think has been the coolest use of Payload to date?
I wish that I was a video game developer. Like, it's not practical for me to do that, especially with family and changing my career now. So whenever I hear like, oh, Payload's going to be used to be the back end for a video game,
Really?
like that's the coolest thing. So we've been reached out by game companies that are doing things like that. Because you can, you're managing users, you're managing maybe some game artifacts or something like who got what badges or what awards and things like that. You can do that with Payload. It's easy to set that up. You can also do payments. And so if maybe you have some premium content, people can buy that and they can get that
No
for
way.
their game. It doesn't matter. Like that's when you would ask the question of like, well, what's Payload used for?
Yeah.
You tell me, what are you building?
That is weird. Wow. Yeah. I mean, in my head, I hear CMS, headless CMS. I'm thinking that first use case that you brought up where you can do a simple blog. I'm like, okay, well, why does the world need another CMS for another blog platform? Aren't there some good enough ones out there? How the heck does this scale or adapt to a blog situation all the way to like a highly beloved video game title that's using it? Like, how is this?
Yeah.
How is that doing that?
Well, if you think about the overlap there of every project's going to have data, every project's going to need some sort of admin interface to manage that data. And then hopefully, if you're dealing with just a CMS that doesn't have this, you're kind of dead in the water at that level. But once you go beyond that, where you have maybe hooks or things that you can do custom queries to the database, then really it doesn't matter what your content is. You tell us, you tell Payload what are your fields and how do you want some of that structure to look like. But I don't care what you build with it. Like, go have fun. Go do something cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we might come back to that topic, but before we get too much into that, I want to hear more about your founder journey and why you started this company. Like, how you said you were using this internally for a while, but like, why headless CMS? Why this? What led you to Payload?
Oh, it's a big question. So I work with two great co-founders, and it was James on our team whose idea was like, we just need to build a CMS, because what had happened before that was, he was in the agency world and I was on the freelance world, which is how we were working together. I was building bespoke apps with like tools like Laravel or Ruby on Rails, and the amount of work you do just for a CRUD application is, it's a big journey just to like get something working.
Yep.
And it's kind of ridiculous, especially if you're a small team or you are an agency that has many clients to keep happy. How are you going to do that? And you can use things like WordPress, but that's the wrong tool. Like if you're really building apps, you're going to need something that's, a lot more developer friendly, a lot more like you customize it in a way that makes it not a blog anymore, because that is what WordPress is. It's a blogging tool. So that is exactly what we had done, is set out to build something that we can use from project to project. It doesn't matter what the client needs are, but we're going to set it all up with this one stack. And it's tools that we're already familiar with. It's a Node app that uses MongoDB database. And we give you that stuff, but we also just take you from start to finish and let you just customize just what you need. And you have the whole admin UI, you have the APIs, you got a GraphQL in there. You just go.
Nice. Did you originally set out to build a product, or was this something that you and your co-founder were trying to build just to give yourself an unfair advantage in the freelance and consulting world?
Yeah, that was a pivot of like, we see what we are doing and it costs too much for the client. Let's build something that everybody can enjoy. Okay. It was very much a separate product from the agency, but born of the requirements of an agency setting.
Okay. So early on, you were thinking this could be a product. We think a lot of people could use this. Did you think that it would reach this potential? Were you thinking bigger? What I'm just curious, if this was something that from day one you were like, let's dedicate our lives to this, or this will just be a little side project.
Yeah, building a CMS, for anyone who's thought about it, is not a trivial task.
No.
So it's very much a poop or get off the pot situation. Like, you're not going to build a small CMS or a half CMS, because it won't be useful and it'll be worse than anything that's already out there. So you really have to go above and beyond, right? So we knew this was a huge ask of ourselves to build it. I had to plead to my wife, not really, like she's so supportive, but had she known what I was asking for when I started this, to say, hey, I'm going to start working on this project with James and Elliot, like maybe she would have had reservations, because this is very much a blood, sweat, and tears, nights and weekends type situation for us. And we just went for it. So there was never a time where, there were times where I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're building all of this. Hope it works. But you get excited when you see what you're building, and it makes you, driven to build more.
Yeah.
Right?
What was the tipping point that allowed you to go full time on this?
Yeah, so that's going to lead into taking investor money. So we joined YC. We applied to YC kind of thinking, well, this could go either way. We like the idea of being in Y Combinator, and we see what they're supporting. It seems like, maybe they'd be interested in us. And sure enough, they were. We got into Y Combinator, and at that point, they'll tell you, you can't do side projects. You can't do anything else. Like, you have to devote yourself to this. You have to be serious. And with the money that they give you, that allows you to do that if you're on the fence.
Okay. So that made it all possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I was scrapping together freelance money, basically, but I was trying to get my family on beans and rice. It's a lot easier when you're in college, but to trim your own budget so that you don't have to do the consulting work and can just focus on this product idea, I was a little bit crazy. So we all made sacrifices to get where we were. And having that salary behind it just meant, okay, now we can really shut down everything else and just go full time on this.
Yeah.
But we already had a product then. That was the crazy thing, is joining YC, it felt like we were way further ahead in a lot of companies' journey, where we had a really great product. We already had some of that traction. And maybe we should have applied to YC years ago. Who knows? But I also think they would be crazy to listen to some guys from West Michigan saying, well, we think we can build a better CMS than anyone else before us. They would probably have said, I don't think you can, but maybe they liked us, so that helped.
Yeah, I would love to dive into that, because I met you maybe 2 years ago now. And when we first sat down in a coffee shop, you described it. And I was inspired by you. I believed in you. But my takeaway was still, it's another CMS. It's a headless CMS, okay. Strongly typed, okay. A lot of people are using it. It sounds like people love it. It's for someone. It's not for me. Mm-hmm. But I'm still I have this takeaway of, it's another CMS. How are they going to stand out from the crowd? So what has been, how have you navigated that and been able to get people to understand your story and view it as something more than just another CMS? And how do you answer that question of, why does the world need another CMS? Like that, I'm just curious about that, because I see that as the number one apprehension whenever people hear your story. You mentioned that a little bit already.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's every conversation I have with people that already use the tools they're familiar with. And developers are always that way, where, well, my thing smells the worst or the best, even though it stinks. But so the situation is, when we started building Payload, we looked at what was already out there, and everything that we came across, we would hit some kind of limitation, or there'd be a reason why we can't go down that path. So it wasn't that I wanted to go build the best CMS ever. It was that I couldn't find what I wanted. Mm-hmm. If you were looking at something like, a lot of them would be hosted, so you'd be interacting with an admin UI to make your models and to effectively write code, which was wrong. That's not the approach I want to do. Mm-hmm. And so I think that our approach is resonating with people that try it. So when I see a Reddit discussion where somebody says, what CMS should I use? I don't just right out say, well, you should definitely use Payload CMS. I want you to get there with me. So I'm going to say, just try several of them and try to build something scrappy in, a little bit of time, and see how far you get, and then choose the one you like the best. And 9 times out of 10, it's Payload. Great.
Nice. So that journey for a user, maybe they discover you through Reddit, or their developer friend is using Payload. Then where are they going next? And then fast forward 3 months down the line, a year down the line, how is their relationship growing with Payload? I'm just curious what that journey looks like. Yeah,
we get a lot of people that start out, and they say, I want to build X. Is Payload a good thing to use that for? Mm-hmm. So, we'll talk to people that are just at their initiation of, I want to do something, or they're an agency that, like we had talked about agencies, they'll turn out so many projects per year, and they're looking to do everything with one stack. So that, we see these people come in to our community, usually through Discord or GitHub discussions. We'll see the same faces for a while. And, nice. We always try to help these people do all these cool things that they're doing. And how can Payload, sometimes we just have to bend a little bit in our open source to make some new really cool things possible. And that might be that we build it, or maybe a community PR comes in and we foster it till the end and make sure it gets deployed and out there for people.
Really cool. So then 6 months into their journey with Payload, what's different than when they first start out? Are they still participating in the Discord community? Like, do they stick around? You said you see their faces for a little while. Is that just during the beginning, or do you see them coming back? Are they, after 6 months later, are they now extending Payload? Is that what you see?
Yeah, well, I'd say there's like 3 camps. One is people that love open source, and those are the people we interact with pretty much on a daily basis they're probably doing their own freelance work, or maybe they are in an agency setting, but they are just diehard. They're going to be contributors. They're going to like add things that we hadn't thought of before. And that's super cool. That's like those are the people we love. We'll send you a shirt. Like, if you're that person, message me and we'll send you a shirt. And then we have another tier of people that are going to be maybe building their own project, or maybe they work at a company. They have a big project. They're going to build something. It's going to be very robust, but projects have a life cycle, right? So the software development life cycle, you see them doing a ton of really cool stuff, and then maybe they go quiet on the community for a while because they've moved on to something else, or they are now in maybe a support phase for this project, and so they're not actively building the thing anymore.
Gotcha.
So we don't need to hear from them. They don't talk to us. And then there's all the people that just use Payload that we don't know who you are. We're happy you're using it, but our anonymous telemetry data is not going to tell us who you are. So we might get a question or two here or there, and those people, we love you, but we want to hear from you too.
What's the future of Payload? What's next on the horizon, or in the product roadmap, or big challenges ahead? First, speaking from a product perspective, I'd love to hear that, and then I'm going to follow up with just for the company and operationally what's different. But I'm really curious, starting with the product, what does the future look like?
Yeah, well, let me say this first. We just launched our cloud hosting option.
Oh, cool.
So that is in production now with some hundreds of projects running right now, which is great. But that is still very fresh for us and for our team. So we need to make sure that we have all the features that are needed to finish out that project, or get it to a point where it's like really feeling finished. Things like rotating keys on database, passwords like that is a little bit more manual if you need that right now. So we need to get like all of those little things tucked up and finished. But Payload itself is something that you can self-host, so you don't have to do it on our cloud platform. And the product itself, our next big, huge, ambitious thing to do with it is that we're going to support multiple databases. Because right now, I had mentioned MongoDB, and not everybody wants to use Mongo. Maybe they're uncomfortable with the NoSQL situation, which is fine. We are actively developing SQL support so that we'll use an adapter style pattern, totally separate concerns if you're using it for which kind of database. You don't have to have all those extra dependencies and making it very heavy. One thing that we are focused on is being able to run in a serverless architecture.
Nice.
So we can do that right now with Vercel. You can spin up Payload and not really have a server, which is really cool. And what we need to focus on with our database situation is that the dependencies are small enough that you don't have cold start issues where if you're familiar with serverless, nothing is running all the time. So it needs to be able to boot up really fast when you do make that request. And we've got that down pretty small. We can get it down smaller. It's something we're focused on the side, and something we don't want to trip over later.
Okay, cool. Switching gears a little bit, what is something that Payload and the Payload team, or just you, believes in that is a little bit crazy, and maybe the rest of the world doesn't believe in yet, but you think is right or will be right in a few years? I'm curious. What crazy ideas do you have?
I don't know if it's that novel, but we're bringing everything back into more of a monolith, more of a do your full application in one spot instead of having all these microservices that you're trying to glue together. Yeah. I think that's not that cutting edge to say that. I don't think anyone's going to be that surprised that I've spoken these words. But I think that we get a lot of questions about AI and that kind of stuff looking forward. And I'm not an AI expert, so I'm not going to answer that. I have no crystal ball there. But I do think that the next steps are just, at least in our company, it's just getting the developer experience exactly where it needs to be, and it's very close. And then coupling that with what do the marketing people need, what do the business people need to make things really easy. But none of that's groundbreaking, and it's more iterative.
Cool. All right, well, we're going to get out of here. So anything else you want to share with the world, and then also let the world know how to find Payload?
Yeah. First off, yeah, payloadcms.com. That's easy to get to. We are on Twitter. We are in other places. We have a YouTube channel, and that's good information.
Is the Discord server usually the best way to engage, though?
Yeah, if you want to just have a conversation, just introduce yourself. We're on Discord every day, so that's a good way. Come say hello. Cool. But then, yeah, my message right now would just be try new tools. Keep breaking things.
Nice.
That's about it.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for your time today. It's been great. Everyone go to payloadcms.com, go to Discord, do whatever you got to do. Go check them out. It's a fun tool.
Thanks for having me, Bryce. This was great.
Awesome.